it's been far too long since I've updated my channel, and I actually have tried recording this video about 2 times already, but I found myself making constant mistakes and saying and it's just, got to keep a certain quality, a certain standard, and I refuse to upload something like that where I feel as though quality is being skimped on. So let's try this. This is number 3 here. If you're new to the channel, if you appreciate the fat fluffy red hamster, all of the interesting Linux videos and DWM stuff, please give a like and a sub. So let's start. It's been probably 2-3 months, I think, since my last upload here on YouTube, and during this time I'm just really busy, many changes happening. I got a new microphone, as you can tell. I'm no longer using the onboard built-in microphone that sounds like I'm stuck in a duster or something. There we go again with I really said to myself I was going to stop saying that, but it's been a long day. I have here a very special project. As you can see, my desktop looks completely different. Everything looks even more minimal than it normally does, and that's because I've been thinking about where to go with the channel, what to do next, because I've done a lot on DWM and just showing you how to make it your own box, make it minimal but at the same time attractive. And I wanted to take it a step further and start a project that I've never really worked on before, and that's actually running Linux on an SBC, a single board computer. And I'll open my terminal here. You guys can see what I am running with some NeoFetch here. So I got Armbian, which is a fork of Debian, and it's running on a RockPi 4B. I'll just run through the basic specs of this thing because I think that that's just what's necessary. You can go to the RockPi website and check out the hardware description, but I'll just give a brief overview of what this thing has. And it has a 6-core CPU, some Mali GPU, I think it's like 860T or something like that, that can output 4K video, and I'll get into that in a second, because I've run into just some interesting things with 4K. On the CPU side, I forgot to mention that it runs, I think, at the lowest speed 1.4, and then it can boost up to 1.8, I think. And I've even heard of people, I think, overclocking this. I can't really remember. I haven't tried that because the thing already runs pretty toasty. I have it in a case, and under it there's a heat sink, and I can feel this thing being on fire when it's running for maybe a couple hours. And I'm just watching videos, honestly. I'm just watching anime a lot of the time to relax, but yeah, it runs too hot for me to even consider overclocking it. I would need to get active cooling, because right now it's just passively cooled with a heatsink. But let's go on. My model here, you can get it in different memory sizes, so I chose to get the 4 gig model, the 4 gig RAM model, and this for me has been perfect. I can run web browsers, terminal sessions, a bunch of stuff, record videos, VLC, whatever, and it never maxes out really on memory, and I'm quite surprised. It's pretty damn good. Now you can choose to buy it with or without soldered memory, and this became kind of my nightmare in a way, but it's great, because once you get everything up and running, you'll get better performance than running from an SD card. So that's just a basic rundown of the most important features of this thing. It has like 4 USB ports, Ethernet, SD card reader, a bunch of pins so that you can control a lot of stuff. One HDMI output on mine. I think that there's a Model C, or is it A? I think it's C. This is the one that has 2 HDMI, so you can have dual displays, but I don't really use that. so I don't really care. It has an audio jack for output and one USB-C for power. So that's pretty much it for the basic rundowns of this thing's specs. But if you find anything that's off or want to correct me on my specifications description of this thing, please feel free to do so, because I'm not really an expert on this thing. I've actually just been doing this during downtime, really trying to get this thing working. But if I go to my web browser page here, when I first got this thing, the Rock Pi actually did not have anything installed on it. It was just, I got the SBC, the case, and a USB cable, and then I had to power it. And that was also an annoying thing, is powering this thing. It's very specific in, well, I mean, not really. It's not really very specific, because it can be powered by a generic charger, but I think that you may run into problems if you use generic chargers because of the voltages. So this thing can chew up a lot of power compared to other boards, or at least it isn't as efficient. I'm not too sure. I'm not really into hardware like that to really know. But what I do know is that this thing requires a pretty good power supply with a range of voltages. It can't use a lot of the weak Android chargers for whatever reason. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's just a poor design. I don't know. But when I got this thing, it didn't have anything on it. So I just got an SD card, and I was scrolling through this web page here, the Radx Rock Pi wiki, and I see all of these different images here. And automatically I'm just like, no, I don't want this. No, I don't want this. I'm not thinking of doing a server, so I don't try this. I actually looked at Debian, and I was like, I never really delved into it, but maybe try it, right? So I downloaded it. I did not like it. It was just, I felt like I was back in maybe 2003. So I removed it. It was too dated. And it's interesting because I had XFCE. It wasn't even like a minimal install like I have here. Look at this. It's just, there's nothing here. I've just installed an image, loaded DWM and ST, and that's it. I don't even have my status bar scripts running, so I can't even get anything. But this looks less antiquated than what I was seeing here. It had screen tearing too, which is quite surprising, because there are several different options that you can use to reduce the screen tearing, and this did not have that loaded onto it. And I was kind of shocked because it's an official image. It's so bizarre. But anyway, yeah, so I got rid of this, and then I came down here, and then I noticed Manjaro, and I was like, wow, that's pretty damn cool. Let me try Manjaro. But when we open Manjaro here, let's see. Alright, this is kind of strange. Let's just go directly to the Manjaro website. Okay, if we come here, it takes you to the images listing, and here it seems as though the Rock Pi 4 is not even on here. But this is the really weird part. So if we copy, well, not a weird part, it just seems like it's disorganized. Oh, I have it open already, I forgot. Or do I? Yes, this is it. Okay, so we can see that there are Rock Pi 4 images here, but yeah, so we can see we have a whole list, but they're not actually connected in here. I don't know, maybe support was dropped, but when I tried to download this, even the download was like messed up. It wasn't even downloading the correct image. I had to go to GitHub here and get it. So that was the beginning of my troubles with Manjaro, ARM, and this SBC, the Rock Pi 4. That was the beginning of it, just getting the image. But once I got it, I downloaded it, and I was shocked. It actually ran pretty damn fast, and it looked really nice. Screen tearing, there was no screen tearing. everything ran really well, but I noticed that I was having issues, and I don't know if it ties back to the power supply, because originally I was just using a generic Samsung charger. And then I was looking at the wiki page here. If you go, there's a where is it? Getting started. Somewhere in here they describe, yeah, I think right here. They describe the the power requirements of this SBC, and they tell you that you need a very specific power supply, because during system load, during high system load, you might have problems. And I think that this is what I was having. So when I was on Manjaro, I was just watching a video, maybe downloading some stuff, and it would just freeze. So I think that that had to do with the power supply, that I was just using a generic Samsung charger that had amperage that was below the spec of this machine. So I was having problems like that. But then it just kept growing and growing. For example, when I changed the power supply, sometimes the Wi-Fi would just freeze, and then I can't do anything. Literally, I have to reboot everything because everything just freezes. But it's weird because you can still kind of click through the interface. You can still open some windows, but you can't access everything. It was very weird. It was very strange. And I got really tired of this. So eventually I was like, I'm going to delete all of this, because I got to the point where I was updating the system, and oddly enough, it finished downloading, and it was just unpacking everything and installing, and then the system just froze, and then my whole system was bricked. And this is where my major complaint with this thing goes in. Why is the boot priority set to the onboard storage first? It's weird, because to me it's like you should have the external option first, not the internal. Because what if the internal chip is just broken? Like, for example, if it's just unbootable and it needs repair or something, maybe you can still boot from the external side and do something with your system. And this is the issue that I had. My system was corrupt, and I was trying to remove it, but I couldn't get to boot from the SD card because the boot priority is set to the eMMC first. And since that's happening, it's always going to try to boot it because the boot sector was still there. It's just during this boot process, something was broken, and it would just stall every single time as I rebooted it. It was so frustrating. But somewhere in this guide, there's a description about how to manually load the distro or ISO that you have. And let's see, I think it's this one here, and it describes to you, yeah. So this is how you can install it. No, it's this one here, actually. Yeah, this is the one that I did. So I got this special USB that allowed me to connect to the pins here. Then you have to short two other pins. I think it's sorry, no, you connect, I can't even remember anymore. You short these two, and then you connect a USB cable to these two pins here, or three pins, and then you can manually push through the image. And then, oh yeah, you have to also put it into rescue mode by pressing one of these buttons. I think it's this button. Yeah, it's button 2. Yeah, so it's this one. You have to press it while it's booting, and then it'll get into rescue mode. And then if you're on Windows, you'll see this, but if you're on Linux, you could just get the list of devices and then just write it to it, and then you install your image. And this is how I did it to rescue my system. Thank God, because I was thinking about having to like remove the onboard storage or something. It was just a pain in the butt. So this was a lot easier. And once I did that, well, before I had done that, actually, because I needed my download, I let's see, let's go back here. I was just trolling the web page. Which one was it? Oh yeah, I think it was actually this one. Sorry about that. Let's go back. Okay, so I went back here when I had found that method of installing the image manually, and I was thinking about what should I use, and I think I tried Android just for, just to say I tried it. And the weird thing is that this kind of branches off into another topic, but for me 4K does not seem to work on this thing. Like, there's a special patch kernel that you need to use to get 4K to even work to begin with, and for me this thing always has my screen over here, this whole portion from here all the way to this end here, just fuzzed out, and it's extremely annoying. So for me 4K never works, and this thing wouldn't even boot for me. But if I use the patch kernel, half or like a little less than half the screen is just gone, so that sucks. But then I came back down here and I looked at Armbian, and it's really cool because Armbian to me took me back to when I first started using Linux, and it really reminded me of Ubuntu in the way that everything just ran. Everything, I didn't need to do anything. The only thing that was kind of broken was screen tearing, but after reading through the Raspberry Pi forums, I found a way to fix the screen tearing, so that wasn't really a big issue. But other than that, everything ran smoothly, ran great, no problems freezing, nothing like that, with the correct power supply. So I just found it to be the best. Right now I just have a minimal install with DWM, ST, and dmenu, and it runs quite flawlessly, to be honest with you. It does everything. I'm thinking about continuing and doing more cool stuff. Like, I've got a bunch of pins here that I can access to do a lot of cool stuff, so I'm really thinking about what I can do next with this thing. But this is just kind of getting through everything and installing Linux on an SBC, which I have never done. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I wanted the Raspberry Pi 4 originally, but because of the current, happenings in the world, there's a shortage of chips and things of that nature. So I did not want to pay $400 for an SBC. This one right here with 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, cost me about like $50, and then plus the case, I think it came out to like 70. So overall, like, I'm not gonna complain. This is definitely a way better deal than the Raspberry Pi 4. But the downside of that is that this community is a lot smaller, so it's a lot harder to find fixes for problems. And I apologize if you can hear the rain. It just started raining, but whatever. Let's keep it going. But yeah, this has just been a quick, I don't know, maybe it's a rant. I'm not sure what to call this, but just a quick introduction into my use of the Rock Pi 4. And so far, I really like it. Back when I was a kid, my computer, my first PC, I think had a single core or dual core. I can't remember if it was single. It might have been dual core. It was slow as hell. It ran Windows XP. It always froze. It had, I think, 512 or 1 gigabyte of RAM. So if we look at that crappy PC compared to this is light years ahead. I mean, it's got 4 gigs of RAM. It has a integrated GPU, an actual decent one, not like those old Intel ones where they can't do anything. So yeah, it's got a real GPU. It's got 6 cores, and I know that they're ARM cores, so they're a lot slower than a full desktop CPU, but still, the fact that you can run a full desktop, and if you minimize it like this, like Linux, this is amazing. I mean, if I could go back, when I was in school, I'm not too sure where the Rock Pi or Raspberry Pi were, but I would definitely prefer this like just carrying around this thing with a keyboard, taking it to the library, plugging it in, and then that's it. I got my PC. I could do all my work. I could literally chuck it in the backpack and go to class, do whatever I gotta do. The only downside is I don't got a screen. But besides that, this thing is better than any laptop I had in school, at least in terms of productivity, right? The hardware, it can do everything. It's quite amazing. It has built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all of that, all in just one debit card, credit card size board, So I think it's really, really impressive. But I think that I'm going to end this now because I've been rambling for a while. It's getting kind of late. But if you made it this far in the video, if you think that Rin is hot, you like my new desktop here that's the size of a credit card, please give a like and a sub. I'm going to really try to get into a routine of uploading more consistently. It's just kind of hard for me to keep a steady flow on things, but I really appreciate it. If you stuck this far in the video, and just give a like and a sub if you appreciate the content, and I really hope that you found this useful.